Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. So what I'd like to do is show you how to write the equation of a parabola when you're given 3 points that the parabola goes through. So basically what we looked at before was when we were writing the equation of a parabola, we were using either vertex form or we were using quadratic form. Y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. Now, vertex form was very helpful when we knew the vertex. Unfortunately, here, all we know is 3 points that the graph goes through. So we don't even know the vertex. All we have is 3 points. We have xy, xy, and xy. You could label them with subscripts if you like. OK, but you don't have to. Well, anyways, vertex form is going to be kind of difficult for us to be able to write the equation line because we only have x and y. And then we still have to go ahead and figure out h and k. However, what we could also do is go ahead and take a look at this and using standard form. Where in standard form, if you see that we have 3 points, we also have 3 variables, a, b, and c, that we do not know. And if we have 3 variables, therefore we have to create 3 equations. Well, that's possible to create 3 equations. It's possible to create 3 equations because we have 3 points. And we can plug in these x and y's into each one of these, into the standard form equation to produce 3 equations. And let me go and show you an example. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug an x, y into this equation for each of these 3 points. So my first equation here is going to be 0 equals a times -1 squared plus b times -1 plus c. Then equation number 2 is going to be 3 is equal to a times 0 squared plus b times 0 plus c. Equation 3, plug in for y, plug in for x. 2 equals a times 1 squared plus b times 1 plus c. OK? So now when I go ahead and simplify this, there's a couple important things that really stand out. First of all, we know that since x is 0 over here, we know that the value of c is going to be equal to 3. Over here, basically, I have this equation. Let's go back and rewrite them in the simplified form. So here I have 0 equals -1 squared is 1. So that's just going to be 1 times a plus, or let's just write that as minus b, because -1 times positive b is going to be a negative b. So instead of saying plus negative, we'll just keep that as a negative b, and then plus c. Equation 2, as we mentioned, 3 equals c. And equation 3, in this case, we're going to have 0 equals 1a plus b. OK, so you can see that we have 3 equations. But the nice thing is we now know, plus c. We now know what the value of c is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace the value of c here and here with the value 3. So actually, I'll write this as 3 equals c. Then what I'm simply going to do is go back to my first two equations, and I'll have 0 equals a minus b plus 3, because that's what the value of c is. And then 0 equals a plus b plus 3. OK, plus 3. Now, if I was going to solve a system of equations, the main important thing that we want to do is make sure we get the variables on the same side. So what I'm going to do in this case next is I'm going to subtract the 3 on both sides for both the equations. Therefore, I'm going to obtain now a new system of equations, which I'll call b, which is -3 equals a minus b, and -3 equals a plus b. Well, if I want to solve for the values of a and b, because I already know what the value of c is. So if I want to find the values for a and b, I can solve this using a system of 2 equations by using substitution. I'm sorry, not substitution. You could use substitution. But since I have everything aligned, and I see that a or b both have a 1, but one's negative, one's positive, I can simply solve this by adding the 2 expressions out. And I'll eliminate the variable b. So -3 plus -3 is going to be a -6 equals 2a. And negative b plus positive b is going to be a 0b. Then to solve for a, I'll divide by 2, and -3 equals a. So I know c is equal to 3, a is equal to negative 3. Now, to go back and find b, I can simply just plug the value of a into one of these equations. So I'll just do negative 3 equals negative a. Oops, not negative a. Negative 3 plus b. Now, I'll simply go ahead and solve for b. So I'll just add a 3 to both sides. And what I get is 0 is equal to b. So writing the equation now in standard form, I know a is negative 3. I know b is going to be 0. And c is going to be 3. Well, obviously, 0 times x is just going to be 0. So my final equation is going to be a negative 3x squared plus 3. Ta-da! OK, so hopefully now you kind of got a little bit of an idea of what to do for that one. We're just going to do the exact same thing. We have, again, our x, y's. We're going to set up our 3 equation. So equation number 1 is going to be 3 equals a times 0 squared plus b times 0 plus 3 plus c. Equation number 2 is going to be 2 equals a times 1 squared plus b times 1 plus c. And equation number 3 is going to be 3 equals a times 2 squared plus b times 2 plus c. OK, now let's go ahead and simplify each of these equations again. You can see here, that's just going to, my zeros are going to cancel out. So I have 3 is equal to c. Equation number 2, I can simplify to 2 equals, that's going to be a plus b plus c. And equation number 3 is going to simplify here to 3 equals 4a plus 2b plus c. OK, so now basically what I'm simply going to do is, again, I can now evaluate for my value c, which is equal to 3. And when I plug 3 in for c, again, I'm going to have to do the same thing I did over here, and then subtract the 3 on both sides. When I go ahead and do that, if I plug in 3, subtract 3, I have a new system of equations, which is going to be, if I have 3 minus 3, it's going to be negative 1 equals a plus b. And then over here, if I have 3, subtract 3, I'm going to have 0 equals 4a plus 2b. You want me to show your work? Yeah, let's go and show your work real quick. Let's replace the c's with 3. Then what I simply did was I just subtracted the 3 on both sides. That goes to 0. Now I'm just left with the black over here. 2 minus 3 is negative 1. 3 minus 3 is 0. OK, so now I have a system of equations. And to solve the system of equations, again, I could either use substitution or elimination. Well, you could do substitution easily. That wouldn't be a problem. But I think using elimination would be the easiest. The main important thing, we just need to identify which equation do we want to, or which variable do we want to eliminate. Do we want to eliminate the a or the b? Well, this one we eliminated the b first. So let's go and eliminate the a first. Now, to eliminate the a, you see that here I have a 1 as my coefficient, and here I have a 4. To use elimination, basically we're going to be adding them. So we got to have the same coefficient, 1 positive and 1 negative. So obtain the same coefficient for a, I need to multiply the top equation by negative 4. And remember, you have to multiply every single term times negative 4. So in doing that, I obtain a new system of equations, which I'll call b. And I now get 4 equals negative 4a minus 4b, because it's really plus a negative 4b. And then below I'll have 0 equals positive 4a plus 2b. Now you can see that a has the same coefficient, 1 negative, 1 positive. And now I can just add them up. And then those are going to divide out. I have 4 equals negative 2b. Divide by negative 2, divide by negative 2. Negative 2 equals b. So I know what the value of c is. I know the value of b. Now, all I simply need to do is, again, plug this value of b into one of these two equations. You could plug them into these two, but these are the more simplified. Plug them into these two to find the value of b. So I'm going to plug in the top equation before I entered in negative 1. So I have negative 1 equals, now, negative 2, or a, plus negative 2. So now to solve for a, all I simply need to do is add a 2 to both sides. And what I get is going to be negative 1 equals a. So now I know what A, B, C. So to write my equation, it's simply going to be y equals negative 1 x squared minus 2x plus 3. And then obviously I don't need to write that 1 there, so my final answer is going to be a negative x squared minus 2x plus 3. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That is how you write the equation of a parabola when given 3 points that go through the parabola, that make up the parabola. Thanks. That's pretty good.